Good evening, junior parents and guardians. We're excited to have you here tonight. I feel like more students showed up than I expected on a Thursday night. I'm Jessica Kasha. I'm one of the guidance counselors here. I have students with last names N through Z.
I'm Sarah McGinness. I'm another counselor. I have the beginning part of the alphabet, students' last names A through F.
And Christina Park is not here tonight. She's not feeling well, but she has the middle of the alphabet. She has G through M. So we always joke to your students that they are stuck with us for 4 years. So by this year, junior year, it seems like it has gone really fast. And we're like, I remember when you were a freshman, you're gonna be applying to colleges next year. And for those of you who this might be your first child who is going through the process, it can be scary, overwhelming, unknown, all of the things. So we are hoping to kind of put your mind at ease tonight to give you some information. We will be meeting with all juniors next week, starting on Monday with the middle of the alphabet, and then Thursday and Friday for the rest of the alphabets, and going over. We will be doing a similar presentation to this, going in a little bit more detail. They will all be getting a blue folder, so you can ask them about this, and I'll talk a little bit more and kind of give you a little glimpse of what is inside this. We are talking primarily about college tonight, but we know that going to a four-year college or even a community college might not necessarily be the path for everyone. So we do kind of big group meetings with the students. Next week we'll do 2 meetings with them before they leave for the summer. And we will talk about college, but we will also talk about VOTEC programs. We'll talk about, being ready for the workforce, going into the military, community college options, and transferring. So we will really kind of cover the full gamut of post-secondary options and what students might want to do. As their counselors, it's basically our goal to make sure that whatever their path is after graduation, that they have a plan, that they know what they do, and they can have it all set up and ready to go by the time they graduate. So again, this is our information. This presentation is being recorded. We will send the recording out, and we will also send the slides out. You guys have a copy of the slides with you now. So if you have any questions throughout the process, email is the quickest way to reach us. We are frequently out of the office dealing with all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot easier for us to respond via email. We work a lot with the students, especially as it's junior year and they're the ones that are going to be graduating and going off to college. We like to work primarily with them in helping them kind of get through the path, but we understand you have questions and some students might be better at taking care of that stuff than others, so we're happy to work with you and partner with you through the process. Sometimes students welcome help from parents and guardians. Sometimes they want you to let them do it on their own. It can be kind of a battle between wanting to be involved and not wanting your child to think you're taking it over. So there are some things that you can do to help without necessarily creating issues with them. One thing that we recommend students do and parents can help with is creating a spreadsheet or a document or a notebook, something that the student can keep track of. What are the schools I'm thinking about? Where have I visited? What are the application materials that this school might need? Because a lot of times the schools have different requirements, different deadlines, and it's really important that students are meeting those deadlines and meeting those requirements. You can ask your student about their blue folder. Like I said, by Friday of next week, everyone will have received this. Inside, there is a college planning checklist, which is a 2-page sheet talking about what they will be doing this year with us, what they can do over the summer, what will be happening senior year, and kind of the final checklist of things for applications. There is a handout about college visits and taking college tours, attending a college fair. The yellow sheet has test deadlines, test dates, so for AP testing, SAT testing, and ACT testing. On the back of that is a handout to keep track of passwords. And then lastly is a handout of all of the state colleges, UMass colleges, state schools, and community colleges in the state of Massachusetts. So they will get all of this by the end of next week, and we will go over all of this with them. We are also setting up a Canvas page for the students for the class of 2025. So we will have all of these resources on it. We will eventually move it over their senior year and put scholarship information. If we have colleges coming to visit, we will put those visits. So any kind of important stuff for them this year and especially next year will be updated on the Canvas page. So you can always ask them to be checking that. College websites are important. It's great for students to start looking at schools now and to kind of navigate the websites, understanding that they will be applying as freshmen or underclassmen, and there's a lot of resources on the college website, so familiarizing themselves with where to find the lists of majors and application deadlines and application requirements. College visits are something that are really good to do, especially this year, and I think we talk about that a little bit in one of the other slides. Obviously during COVID things were tough and a lot of our visits were virtual. Everything is open now. You can go on colleges' websites and book tours. And it's a really good way. Some colleges will even take you into lecture halls and let you and show you what the classes are like. You can go into dorm rooms, and the tours are usually led by current students, so they can give you insider information, and it's a great way to connect with the universities. The financial piece can be tricky, so having that conversation with your child about realistically what can you afford. It's kind of a hard topic to think about, but there's also financial aid, there's also scholarships, both need-based and merit-based. There's students now, the seniors who have applied, they have filled out their FAFSA. FAFSA has not even sent that information to colleges yet because the form is new and the government is working through a lot of kinks with that. But a lot of students are hearing back already. I've received I've received school-based aid and I've received scholarships. And so while the financial piece is hard and it's kind of often hard to figure out what that would look like, just know, I always tell students, if it's a school that you would want to go to, apply and then see what money you're able to get, because then that will help you make a decision. You can assist with applications, but please let them complete them on their own. It gets tricky if parents are doing portions and students are doing some. I had a student whose parent created a Common App account and they created a Common App account and the wrong one was linked, and it can just get kind of messy sometimes. Teenagers are wonderful. That's easy for us to say because we only have them for 7 hours during the day and then we don't have to take them home. But I know it can be difficult to have a conversation, and sometimes they aren't forthcoming with information about what they're thinking about colleges or majors or where they want to go. So kind of try to find that time, maybe when you're driving them somewhere and they can't escape the car, and you can say, tell me where you're applying to colleges. But it really is a great time to kind of have those conversations about their future and what they want to do. Okay, there are a lot of things that come into deciding which colleges students will apply. Sometimes students will have their own opinions about why they're selecting schools. Sometimes you have your own opinions. It's great to kind of sit down on your own and think about what are some things that I think are important for my child, and then connect and say, what are you thinking of in terms of college? Like, where do you see yourself going, and where, what do we feel like would be a good fit, and have those conversations. Location is big. Obviously, there are a lot of colleges and universities in New England alone. There is also a program where, and I just forgot the name of it. I have it on my other slide.
Oh, the tuition break?
Tuition break. It is a reciprocity program between a bunch of colleges in New England. So because you are Massachusetts residents, your child is eligible to go to colleges in other states for not the out-of-state price, but for a reduced rate. So you can look into tuition break and see if any of the colleges your child is thinking of applying to participate. There are some of the colleges have requirements, a GPA minimum you have to meet. Some have particular program requirements. So it's a great way to look at out-of-state schools, but not necessarily pay out-of-state prices. So location, if your child is thinking about going elsewhere, but you're also thinking about that financial piece, that's a great option. Distance from home. Some students want to stay close, some students want to go far. You have to think realistically what that would mean in terms of travel. Admission selectivity, obviously some schools are a lot more competitive to be accepted to than other colleges. So looking at your child's GPA test scores, if that is necessary, if there are any prerequisites to majors and such. The size, obviously there are big universities, small private schools. What would be the best fit for your child? You can find out what the average classroom size is, the teacher-student ratio, so that can make a big difference in where your child decides to go. Not all colleges have the same majors, so if your child is thinking of applying to one university versus another, they may have to choose different majors if the major that they want isn't offered at all of their schools. Housing. Not all colleges guarantee housing. Some colleges for instance, in Boston or in cities, may say we can only guarantee housing for freshman year because we're in a major city and we just don't have the space. Financial aid, your child will fill out FAFSA. When they fill out their applications too, a lot of colleges will say, are you interested in college aid, school-specific aid, and so you can mark that. Student diversity, and then campus culture. So again, a lot of different reasons that your child might choose a particular school or that you might be looking at certain schools, so it's great to have those conversations now before they start visiting. Now is the time we always have students come, what can I do? Research is the biggest thing they can do right now. Going on college websites, going on college tours is huge. We'll have students applying senior year and they haven't visited schools, and it's really hard to imagine yourself going to a school that you've never set foot on the campus before. So looking at the websites, figuring out what schools that they want to go to. We will talk about Naviance in a little bit, but Naviance has a lot of search features that we sit down with students and say, okay, are you thinking you want to stay in New England? Is there a particular place you want to go? And a lot of times that is a good starting point to say, okay, now what majors are you thinking of? And you can plug in certain things and get a list of schools that you can start narrowing it down and start looking at. We recommend students apply to 4 to 8 schools. That includes safeties, which I'm hesitant to use as a word anymore, target schools and reach schools. Keep an open mind. You never know. A lot of students will maybe discount a school, like Bridgewater State, for example, because it's so close and they're like, I want to go far, but Bridgewater State has great programs and the price is right a lot of times. So we always tell students, apply broadly, apply to different schools, a good variety of schools, and then see where you are accepted and go visit some schools and kind of see how you feel about them. Okay. Now is the time to do college visits. So junior year is a great time because we have February break coming up. So February break, all the colleges are still going on. They are in full swing. You can go visit the school. You can get a really good feel for what the campus is like, full of students, student life, and everything. Like I said, you will visit academic buildings. You can see the student union. You can see dorm rooms sometimes. They might take you to lecture halls. So you get a really good feeling for what's going on. And the person on the tour will talk about special programs, any unique things, application materials that you might need. Sometimes they will give out fee waivers and say you came for this visit, here's a code, and now you can apply to this school for free if you apply through us. Like I said, it is really hard for students to make a decision on where to go to college if they have not visited the schools. So February break is a great time, especially if your child wants to go to school, say, in a warmer location. Spring break with us is also a great time because we are on spring break in April and most colleges go to spring break in March. So if you're going to visit during spring break, they are again still in full swing. Colleges don't typically end their spring semester until May. So you could visit over the summer and that's perfectly fine, and there will still be students on campus taking summer classes, but you won't get the full feel of what the campus is like full of students. You typically will sign up for a tour ahead of time, and you can do that on the college's website. And sometimes you have to, students can miss 5 days excused between junior and senior year if they have some sort of proof documentation that they were visiting a college. So if you do sign up for a college tour, you can print out that confirmation like, thank you, John, for signing up for UMass Amherst tour on this date. They will come and they will bring it to the attendance office and they will be excused for that day. So between junior and senior year, they will have 5 absences that will be excused. This isn't just for 4-year colleges, it can be for community colleges, it could be for the trade schools, it could be you were visiting with a military recruiter, so any sort of postgraduate planning that you were doing, you can have 5 days for that. What we hear most from students is that they wish that they had time to visit more schools. So students, we typically go during February break, go during spring break, go over the summer if you can't make those other times work. And then what will tend to happen is students will use that to kind of narrow down their list, and then they will apply in the fall, and then once they start getting accepted, they will use February break and spring break their senior year to either revisit schools that they've kind of narrowed down or to visit schools that they never had the opportunity before that they were accepted to. May 1st has historically been the deadline that you have had to make a decision and notify colleges of where you're going to attend. FAFSA is taking extra long this year because they changed it and they're pushing everything back. So there may be a chance that that deadline changes for this group of seniors, but we will kind of see how that changes things for the future. Okay, over 300 colleges and universities in New England. So again, that program that I spoke about earlier, you can look through all of the states in New England and see which colleges participate and get a discounted tuition rate. So it is nice that we have so many schools that are within an easy driving distance so that your kids can come home and do their laundry. Okay, there are a few different types of applications. Students will hear us talk about early applications, early decisions, and regular decision. So early action is non-binding. You are able to apply to many schools early action, and you will just get your decisions earlier. Early decision, you can only apply to one college, and it is typically your first choice. Because if you are applying early decision, it is a binding contract. You are telling that university that if they accept you, that you are committed to going there, and that you will withdraw the rest of your application, so you will not know where you could have been accepted elsewhere. So this does carry a little bit of weight. So if your child wants to apply early decision and they are meeting the expectations of what that college is looking for in terms of academics and grades, and they want to apply early decision, that is letting that college know that that is that student's top choice. Early action and early decision deadlines are typically November 1st, November 15th, or December 1st, so that happens soon. We get your children at the very end of August, very beginning of September, and if they are applying early, then they only have a couple of months to have all of their applications in. That means that they have to turn documents into us so we can start the process of getting teacher letters of recommendation and all of that. So school happens, we will meet with them, we will go over all of this, and for some of them applying early, things will be very quick. November 1st applications will not have senior year grades because grades will not be posted until after November 1st. So the transcripts that will be sent initially for early applications of November 1st will only have from freshman to junior year on them. We will send mid-year reports later that will have all of the grades for first semester, but when they apply initially, the GPA and everything that the colleges will see will be for just freshman through junior year. Regular decisions are typically later. They are February, some January, but typically February and March deadlines or later. And obviously that will have the full first semester grades on the transcript that goes off. Students always ask, like, should I apply early, should I apply regular? It really depends on the student, and this is why it's important that we meet with them, that they reach out to us if they have questions. If a student's grades have been consistent throughout high school, if they are at what the colleges are looking for or even above, and they have their application materials completely ready to go, their essays done, they're moving and grooving, then it might be great for them to apply early. If they've had some inconsistencies and they want those senior year grades on the transcript when the transcript is sent, when the colleges are evaluating it, or they need some more time, they're really tweaking their essay, or they have a lot going on and they just need some more time to get their materials together, then it might be better to apply regular. Students, the trend seems to be that colleges are trying to push students to apply early action more so that they have more time to make decisions. That has been frustrating, at least for this class of seniors, because a lot of them applied early, and with FAFSA being pushed back, they will not have decisions until way later in terms of financial aid, so it hasn't really been beneficial. And we are still unsure of how FAFSA will work for next year. It's there, but hopefully they will fix everything that has been an issue by next year when your children are doing it. There are also rolling admissions decisions where students will have, the college will just continue accepting applications until they have received enough acceptances that they are full for that class year. Okay, so colleges do a holistic view. They look at a number of things when deciding if they want to admit students if they want to admit students. Their grades, their GPA, so the classes that they took, the GPA that they earned, they were looking for a positive grade trend. So they want to see, maybe they struggled freshman year, but they increased their grades in their GPA sophomore year, they increased their grades junior and senior year. So they don't expect perfection. They know that high school is an adjustment, students are new, these are new classes, new expectations, but they want to see that things have been getting better and the students have been working harder and increasing their grades. The rigor of their academic program. Test scores if necessary. A lot of colleges are test optional now, so the majority of the schools that our students are applying to are test optional. We still recommend students take the SAT in the spring of their junior year and potentially in the fall of their senior year, just so that they have a test score in case they want to apply to a college that does require it. It would not be fun if you decide you want to apply to school and realize that you need a test score and you are not able to sit for a test. Any special talents, maybe extracurricular activities or clubs, the personal essay that the student has written about themselves, letters of recommendation. So colleges typically request one letter of recommendation from a teacher. A lot of colleges will accept more than one. Some colleges will say that they also need a letter of recommendation from a guidance counselor. Extracurricular activities, so sports, employment, clubs, internships, anything that the student has done outside of school, and some colleges also offer an interview. So there's a lot of stuff that they are looking for, not just the grades. So I think every year we are surprised by students not getting into schools we thought they would get into, and then students getting into schools that we didn't think that they would. So you never really know. And we tell students, if you are interested in a school, apply, because you never know what that school is going to be looking for, and you might have some skill or something that they need at that time. Okay. There's a couple different pieces for the application process. There is the piece that the student does for themselves, and then there is a piece that they have to do for us. So the application for the school, the student will complete themselves. They will either do it through the common application, or they will do it through the school's individual campus, and most colleges will have their own application. Doing it through the common app is nice because you do one common application and then you do individual questions for the colleges, so they're filling out just one application and then individual questions, so it's a lot easier for the student. So the student will do the application, whether it is through Common App or the school. They will write an essay, and then they will pay the fee, and they will have to send their test scores if needed. So those are the things that the student has to do. For us, we have to get together their transcript, a school report, letters of recommendation, and that is what we send on behalf of the school for the application. So the student, and we will talk with them about this and walk them through the whole process, they will turn in some paperwork with us, we will take care of the school piece, and then it is up to them to continue working on their applications and to make sure that they're meeting their deadlines. Okay, so like I said, most colleges use the Common Application, or the Common App as we call it. Common App will not be available for students to create until the summer. We will actually sit down, we will do a bunch of presentations with your students in the fall when they're seniors, and we will do another kind of variation of this in more depth with them, and we will actually say, okay, create your Common App, connect it to Naviance, and we will walk them through that whole technology piece in the fall. Some students will do it ahead of time, and that's fine, but we will sit down with them and walk them through all the steps to make sure they're doing it right. Some students choose to do the school-specific application if they have visited a school and they have a fee waiver. We've had some athletes who have said, I'm being recruited by this school, and they gave me a fee waiver, or they said apply directly to the school for whatever reason. So it really just depends on your child's situation. There are fee waivers. If your child is on free or reduced lunch, they can apply for the fee waiver in Common App. There are also some other criteria that would qualify for a fee waiver in Common App, so if you think your child might be eligible, have them talk to their counselor, because they have to request it and we go in and approve it. If they are eligible for a fee waiver in Common App, that would waive the application fees for all of the schools that they apply to in Common App. We also have fee waivers for SAT testing as well. So if your child is going to take the SAT test this spring or in the fall, they can also reach out to us and we can give them a fee waiver code. Okay, letters of recommendation. As I said, most colleges need at least one letter of recommendation. A lot of schools will accept 2 or more. It is great for students to start thinking this year. We say, who do you think that you would want to ask? Don't ask anyone yet, but typically it's junior and senior year teachers. If the student wants to major in science, it would probably be a good idea for them to have a letter of rec from a science teacher. So we tell them, really think about who you've had. You don't have to have a letter from a teacher who you got an A in their class. You can have a letter from a teacher who maybe you got a C and you worked really hard for that C, and you saw them through Bridge Block, and you came after school, and that teacher can write, listen, John struggled in my class but put so much work and effort into bringing their grade up and really understanding the material. So Students will talk them through and kind of walk them through who might be a good person to write for them. Are there any specific requirements that your school has for letters, and so on. They will ask the teacher, and that's part of the piece that we do with them, and some paperwork that they have to do with us. And the teachers will put their letters in Naviance, and then we will send the letters on the teacher's behalf when we send all of the other documents for them.
So another piece of the application process is standardized testing. A lot of students do get anxious about this process because some students just aren't the best test takers. We always just try to remind students that colleges really do look at your transcript, like 4 years compared to 4 hours on a Saturday. But nonetheless, the standardized testing is still part of the application process. So the SATs are coming up in March and May and June. The June test date is during graduation. So if you know that you're going to be a part of graduation, maybe May or March may be the best option. But then also there's exams in May. So it just really kind of depending on what your schedule is and what will work best for your child. We do have some students take the ACT, but primarily a lot of our students do still take the SAT. So as Ms. Pasha mentioned that a lot of schools are still test optional. So that all that information will be on the website. Unfortunately, with the college application process, everything, the schools vary from what they require to their deadlines, so it isn't consistent across the board. So that can get overwhelming, that can be frustrating. So we always say to look back at the college websites because they are very clear in what you'll need. For our student athletes, for Division 1 and Division 2, there's a specific process to maintain a specific GPA. We don't have too many students that go D1 or D2, but you submit your transcript through to the NCAA and also meet with recruiters and coaches. With Naviance, we have been using this program with our students starting last year. We'll be really using it a lot more moving forward. So what we're going to be focusing on starting next week is the post-secondary process. So having students start adding schools to the college I'm thinking about tab, start generating a list, start saving it in one place and trying to build upon that list. And I'll show you in a little bit kind of some of the features with Naviance because it has been helpful, especially for, when you're just starting with this process. There's scattergrams, and all this information in Naviance is Abington data. So it's all Abington students, so that is helpful, especially with looking at some of our more popular schools. This is just a snapshot of what students see in Naviance. Again, I'll go more into detail with this, but this is just a way of, again, colleges or students to list their colleges. You can see in the middle under delivery type, where it says CA, those schools are all Common App schools. If you see one that just looks like a little computer, that means that's a college-specific application. So this just gives a quick snapshot to the student of how many schools are on the Common App. So luckily for this student, most of the schools are on the Common App, so that would mean that they don't have to continue to fill out additional applications except for Salem State and Endicott. You can also choose your deadlines, and then it's also just helps to keep track of your deadlines. Junior year, again, we can't emphasize enough, it's really about visiting. You know, it's a lot of money, and we want to make sure that the students really feel comfortable there. The academics usually falls in place, but if a student is at a huge school and it's not the right fit for them, they're probably not going to be as successful as they would be at maybe at a different setting. So it's really going to be important to try to see a different range of schools, maybe one in the city, maybe a smaller one in the suburbs, just to be able to compare. Because our students, you know, they're used to a small school. So a lot of times they're like, I want to go to a big school, but once they see a larger school, sometimes they kind of scale it back a little bit, but really they're not going to know until they visit. So even if you're not able to go with them, if their friends are going, the more schools they can see, even if it's a school that they weren't even thinking of, we always think it's beneficial. The more campuses you can go on, the better.
And like I said, we'll have college reps that come out and we will send this information out too, which is great because they can talk more about specific programs, unique programs they have, what they're looking for, answer questions from the students. And we always tell them to get a business card because a lot of times the reps that come out are the ones that are actually reviewing the application. So if you have a question and you're trying to decide between two majors and which one's more competitive, or if I think I want to go this route, it's always great to get a hold of that admissions rep and ask them the questions. And we will also take them to the college fair in the fall too. Sign-ups for that go quick. So the juniors, your kids beat out the seniors for spots last time. So we try to get them like as much exposure because we know that not all students are able to get out and visit schools for whatever reason. So we're trying to connect them with schools as much as possible too.
So like Ms. Kasha said, that will be in the fall. Then we go to Hanover High School, at least in the past it's been at Hanover High School, so we take 2 buses to Hanover for an hour where they're able to meet a lot of admission reps.
It's like 50 or 60, it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah. And then looking ahead for next year, senior year comes very quickly, and once you're there, it goes by even faster. We will meet with students basically the second week of school, and we really hit the ground running. So if as long as they have a solid list and have done some stuff over the summer, you know, if we meet with them now and we meet with them again in a couple of months and they don't really do anything in between, this process does get to be very overwhelming. Ms. Kasha and I can really do this in our sleep, which I think is helpful to some students who are probably overwhelming. But the more that they can do, and just the more they are able to identify what type of characteristics they want in a school, just the better off they'll be. And this process can change. The financial piece is a huge part, and trying to have those conversations ahead of time. We have students that just primarily apply just to state schools. A lot of our students apply to Bridgewater just because of location and because you can save a lot of money by living at home. So if you live at home for a couple of years, and then either students will live in an apartment or in dorm, there's other ways to kind of to try to make this process a little bit more affordable. But again, senior year, we're really going to be, we really start working with seniors very quickly. As we talked about, the financial aid has been an issue this year. We hope that everything will be smoothed out for next year. We will also have a financial aid workshop next year, like we've had in the past. And we have additional resources. So if you do have issues with the financial aid, we have webinars that we've been going to, and we can send out additional resources for you if you do need more support with that process. With scholarships, primarily the scholarship piece, at least for the local scholarships that we give during senior awards night, mostly that process starts around now for our seniors. So usually it's like, you know, you're doing your research now, you apply to schools, and then once you've applied to schools, then you focus more on the scholarship piece. If you are granted a merit-based scholarship from a university, you typically find that out once you get your acceptance letter. So it's congratulations, you've been accepted, and then it may say that you've been awarded X amount. So usually that's in that initial letter for the school-specific scholarship. But again, for the local scholarships that we give out during senior awards night, the majority of that, we get applications starting now. All of that information will be on the Canvas page for our current seniors and for our seniors next year as well. And the big, we have this one sheet for students that they need to fill out to be eligible for a lot of the scholarships that we give out for senior awards night, and we call all of the seniors down in the auditorium and we give them each a sheet, so there's no way that they can miss it. So we'll continue to do that. So that's just, but again, the scholarship piece is more done after you apply. And then I just wanted to show a little bit more with Naviance. So this is Abington. So when students log in, and students usually their login information is their school email and their school password. So we'll be focusing more on the college tab. So we'll start having students start adding schools to college that I'm thinking about. So we've already generated a list here, but as you can see, the list of schools that we've added, right here you can see where it says CA, these are all the Common App schools. If we wanted to, we could highlight the deadlines. And again, these are the schools that we're just thinking about. You can do compare me. So this student, I think is this student has a 2.9 GPA. And again, this is Abington data, so I don't want you to think that just because like Bridgewater State says a 3.04, students generally get in with a lower GPA, but again, because we have so many Abington students who apply to Bridgewater, it is more competitive for our students compared to some other schools. Going back here, if students are just starting off and don't have an idea of where they want to, or just trying to get a list of schools, under location, I'm gonna just do Northeast.
This is super matched, so a lot of times when kids come in and they're like, I have no idea where I want to apply, what school I want to go to, we're like, cool, let's start doing a search. So we're like, do you have a rough idea of where you want to go? And they'll usually be like, New England. We're like, great, so let's start there. But super match is great because, like Ms. McGinness is showing you, they're asking you so much different information, and even if you know location and a major, it will generate a list for you, but it also has like all of these other search criteria, and so you can save it, and it's a good way to kind of build a list that of schools that you didn't even know existed.
So there are, but I like to start off more broad and then just kind of see how many schools that we initially end up getting. So just with doing New England, and then with computer engineering, there are 16 schools that have just those two criteria. So you can see the list of schools down here, and then once you click on a school, it also gives you the overview of the school. So again, we always recommend that students go directly on their website, but just for a quick glance, you can see URI's information. You can double check their studies, the programs, their student life, admissions. And then you can see that this year 23 students applied to URI. So far 4 have been accepted.
But they're still updating their exams.
Yes, our senior year students are still updating their Naviance. They're not the best once they've applied, so there are probably more students that have been accepted, but this just hasn't been updated. So again, this is just, and you can find a lot of this information for most of our schools. This is the scattergram that we were showing. So right here is Abington with their 2.9 GPA and 1,000 on SAT. So it's a little bit below what the average is. And you can see here all the students, all the green check marks are students that have been accepted, X are students that have been denied, and the purple are students that have been waitlisted. If your student comes across a school and it doesn't have really a lot of information, that's just because we don't have enough data for students for confidentiality. So if we don't have a lot of this information in there, it's just because we haven't had a lot of students apply to that school. But there's other ways that we can get that information, but just in Naviance, some of the schools, especially out of state, or some of the ones that aren't as popular for our students, we don't have that information. Eventually next year, we're going to be converting all these schools to college I'm applying to, so it looks very similar. But again, this is a great way to help us track all of the schools. And this list is going to be very fluid. So students are going to have a list starting next week, but then it should be changing as they do more research, as they do some more visits. But again, it just kind of helps keep track of everything in one location.
Naviance is where we will send, so they will create their Common App, they will update their Naviance, they will match their accounts, so that way we are able to send everything that we need, transcripts, letters of rec, school profile, all of that. We send it through Naviance, but then it links through Common App. So we tell students, you need to make sure you're updating your Common App, we need to make sure you're updating your Naviance as well, and that they match and you have the same information. So they will be using both. They're gonna be so excited.
Yes.
That question, yeah. You said that Bridgewater State is more competitive for students here. I'm just saying, so it sounds like they're not going to take only so many students from any given high school? Is that what I'm hearing?
We're technically kind of a feeder school for Bridgewater, so it is a little bit competitive, but they do accept more students. So last year we had 59 students apply to Bridgewater. With all of our state schools, they want around a 3.0, but they kind of give and take depending on what classes students have taken. So it's not that students need a 3.0, but high 2.7 and above. That's sometimes where SAT scores can come in, can benefit students if they're good test takers and their SAT scores are a little bit higher.
I guess what I'm getting at is, is it the same standard for every school? Are you saying this Abington has a feeder school for Bridgewater
So
State?
Bridgewater will typically
So-
accept more students from Abington than they would, say, other schools that are outside the general South Shore area.
So is that an advantage or a disadvantage?
An advantage for Bridgewater.
I'm sorry?
And an advantage for Bridgewater.
It does put some, okay.
And also some school, because our state schools also have, they have a partnership with community schools. If students don't meet the Bridgewater standards, they'll automatically say that they can transfer after 2 years of going to a 2-year school. So a lot of students, depending for various reasons, whether it's their GPA or just financial reasons, a lot of students will go to Massasoit for 2 years, save more money that way, and then transfer to any state school as a junior. So there's other ways to kind of get to Bridgewater if students didn't get into Bridgewater initially, but we do have more students that do get accepted there.
And if you do attend community college for 2 years and transfer, you do get a tuition break, so you can go to state schools for cheaper.
And then with the tuition break that Ms. Kasha mentioned, we just wanted to highlight this website. So especially if one of our state schools doesn't offer a specific major, that's when, then if UNH, for instance, offered that major that none of our state schools offered, then you can go to UNH for an in-state tuition for that major. So there's a few different ways. Some schools around us will say if you're within 50 miles of the school or X amount of miles, you get the in-state tuition rate. So other schools can be a little bit more creative. But again, this is a tuition break website that we mentioned. Any questions with really anything with this process?
You will have more questions later.
I know we didn't do that good of a job.
We did. I'm just kidding.
So is every college on Nuance?
Most colleges are on Naviance. There have been a
Naviance.
couple times like kids have pulled out some crazy schools in like Canada, or they're like, I'm looking at this college in Europe, and I'm like, that's not in Naviance, but we'll sort it out. But yeah, but most United States schools are in Naviance. Yeah.
Are they already set up on this?
They are. They've used it before, but they probably don't remember.
And then next week we'll be working with them primarily with their list.
Yeah.
So
Give them the
they'll-
folder. We'll go through.
They'll be reminded
Yeah, all
of the
of that.
process. Any other questions?
Any students with questions? Are you excited? You're not answering. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we are excited to talk with your students next week and to continue the conversation later on in the year and in the fall. We are here as much or as little as they need. Some students really have it all sorted and come see us minimally. Some students are in our offices daily asking us.
So it's whatever you need, whatever your students need, we are happy to help. So just let us know what we can do to help support you in this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.